Putin has a Wall Street Journal reporter, Evan Gershkovich, in prison. He's had him there for quite some time. And in spite of what people might allege you to believe, he did not shy away from the topics. Let's see what Putin's response was.
I just got to ask you one last question, and that's about someone who's very famous in the United States, probably not here, Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter. He's 32, and he's been in prison for almost a year. This is a huge story in the United States, and I just want to ask you directly, without getting into the details of it or your version of what happened, if as a sign of your decency, you would be willing to release him to us and we'll bring him back to the United States.
Мы столько сделали жестов доброй воли, что, мне кажется, мы исчерпали все лимиты.
We have done so many gestures of goodwill out of decency that I think we have run out of them.
Ни разу не ответил.
We have never seen anyone reciprocate to us in a similar manner. However, in theory, we can say that we do not rule out that we can do that if our partners take reciprocal steps. When I talk about the partners, I first of all refer to special services. Special services are in contact with one another, but there are certain terms being discussed via special services channels. I believe an agreement can be reached.
So typically, I mean, this stuff has happened for obviously centuries. One country catches another spy within its borders, it trades it for one of its own intel guys in another country. I think what makes, and it's not my business, but what makes this difference is the guy's obviously not a spy, he's a kid. And maybe he was breaking your law in some way, but he's not a super spy, and everybody knows that. And he's being held hostage in exchange, which is true. With respect, it's true, and everyone knows it's true. So maybe he's in a different category. Maybe it's not fair to ask for, somebody else in exchange for letting him out. Maybe it degrades Russia to do that.
Вы знаете, можно как угодно говорить, что такое шпион, что не шпион.
You can give different interpretations to what constitutes a spy.
But are you suggesting that he was working for the US government or NATO, or he was just a reporter who was given material he wasn't supposed to have? Those seem like very different things.
Я не знаю, на кого он работал.
I don't know who he was working for, but I would like to reiterate that getting classified information in secret is called espionage, and he was working for the US Special Services, some other agencies. I don't think he was working for Monaco, as Monaco is hardly interested in getting that information. It is up to special services to come to an agreement. Some groundwork has been laid. There are people who, in our view, are not connected with special services. Let me tell you a story about a person serving a sentence in an allied country of the US. That person, due to patriotic sentiments, eliminated a bandit in one of the European capitals. During the events in the Caucasus, do you know what he was doing? I don't want to say that, but I will do it anyway. He was laying our soldiers, taken prisoner, on the road and then drove his car over their heads. What kind of person is that? Can he even be called human? But there was a patriot who eliminated him in one of the European capitals. Whether he did it of his own volition or not, that is a different question.
Yeah, but Evan Gershkovich didn't do that. I mean, that's a completely different. I mean, this is a 32-year-old newspaper reporter.
He committed something different. He's not just a journalist. I reiterate, he's a journalist who was secretly getting confidential information. Yes, it is different, but still, I'm talking about other people who are essentially controlled by the US authorities, wherever they are serving a sentence. There is an ongoing dialogue between the special services. This has to be resolved in a calm, responsible, and professional manner. They're keeping in touch, so let them do their work. We are ready to talk. Moreover, the talks are underway. And there have been many successful examples of these talks crowned with success. Probably this is going to be crowned with success as well. But we have to come to an agreement.
I hope you let him out. Mr. President, thank you.
All right, so
maybe you make a Tom Hanks movie about it one day.
I want him to play me.
Is that the guy he's trying to trade for? The guy that shot the guy running heads over? Is that what he meant by putting that out there?
No, he's trying to say, well, you have prisoners of questionable guilt or moral culpability, and as Carlson pointed out, that was a terrible comparison. You should really, he should bring up, well, Julian Assange. Well, you guys don't want to let Julian Assange out.
I was going to say, you had a lot of class not throwing that Assange thing in our face like I would.
Right. I mean, look, all of his answers that I've seen, and to be clear, I haven't had time to watch the entire interview yet, but everything I've seen, it reminds me of the Stone interview. His answers are reasonable. They are measured. And the criticisms that you really hear about Putin are usually criticisms of his internal affairs, which even if all of that is true, as I pointed out earlier, that is not a bar to entry for doing business with the United States. So arguing that it's because of gay rights in Russia that we have this relationship with Putin, God, if we did not have the LGBTQ community, we would have to invent them to hide behind, which is something many members of that community are hip to, and they call it gay washing. That is what they always do when they want to justify horrific policies that really have absolutely nothing to do with that community, but that's the kind of thing they'll fall back on to explain the tension of our relationship with Russia. There's no fucking reason for it. This is a guy you could deal with, do business, set aside whatever you think about the internal policies of Russia, because again, that's never stopped us before.
And also, I don't live there. I don't give a shit.
Well, that's a whole. I mean, that's a whole. That's my general take on countries that are not my own. But even that aside, even you have those reservations. That's not anything that dictates our foreign policy with any other country, right? That only dictates our foreign policy with countries that we have other issues with, and then we pretend that dictates our foreign policy. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. What? They're holding a big freaking pride parade in the middle of Riyadh? Like, what? Get the fuck out.
Russ, I think you're doing a misinformation and not giving full context. Because I just saw the great Douglas Murray, who his new work he got done looks great, by the way. I want to say that first. Talking about Russia now, after his amazing takes on.
Oh yeah.
And his great book, The Madness of Crowds, which explains why anyone still feels how they do about Russia, about shit that doesn't affect them, by the way. Douglas Murray goes, I was in London and I heard that Putin had an ex-KGB member killed that lived there. And I was like, does anyone else think this is crazy? Like, he thought it was so crazy that an ex-KGB got killed by the KGB.
That was one of the things that made them decide they couldn't just, bow down and rehabilitate Trump as a tool of the empire the way they normally would. When he turned around, he started saying shit like, "Yeah, you think we don't have killers? We have lots of killers." That was a key moment that made Trump public enemy number one. It was never the things that they claimed it was about with Trump. It was always moments like that, because look, I've said this many times. The night that he went and bombed Syria, they loved him. Tonight he became president. Now listen, I saw them do this with George Bush. I saw them do this with the Shrub, the second Bush.
Yes.
I saw them do it. They attacked him. They attacked him. The second the Supreme Court anointed him the president, all of a sudden, all the puff pieces came out about the way his White House works, and they start pumping him up.
I remember after
he
9/11.
became part of the club. He became right after the Supreme Court decided that, the press stopped asking questions about the election. They immediately start calling him President Bush.
Right.
And I will never forget.
No,
I don't remember what magazine it was in. It was in one of those propaganda rags. It was in either Time or Newsweek. They do this. They always do pieces like this to turn your fucking brain into bubble gum so that you think this is what politics is.
Peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah, they did this lovely piece about how he keeps bankers' hours, and that's how they run their White House. And it's all fan service to politicians. That's what a lot of those,
And you have to
a lot of that kind of reporting is.
No
because
cussing.
it's access journalism. That's how they get the access, by kissing their asses. They were ready to do that with Trump. They were ready to do it. After he bombed Syria, they were lining him up for that treatment. And I promise you, if he had gone along, the next thing you would have known, you would have gotten an article in Newsweek about his unconventional style that's some people in the Beltway don't understand, but it's inarguably effective. He didn't bite. He didn't bite. Now, we can discuss the reasons for that, but absolutely incontrovertible. They wanted to make him part of the club, and he didn't want to join. He kept saying the soft part out loud and going off script, and they can't have that. That was always the issue with Trump. It continues to be, because if you look at his policies, conventional Republican shit. Like, it wasn't anything revolutionary.
Well, it was a very open door policy to immigration, especially illegal immigration. That's why supposedly he had a lot of Hispanic vote. I don't know if that's why. I think it was probably other bullshit, but he was very big on everybody with neoliberal immigration policies is okay at the end of the day. Number one, we're never get rid of that. But and I just want to point out that people that the Illuminati this and the Illuminati that, there is a bunch of organizations that actually control things. They don't have to make any secret signs. They're signs you see every goddamn day. Pfizer and Lockheed and Boeing. There's your freaking Illuminati right there. No secret. It's in front of your dumb face. And that's why Putin can't make a deal with the president, because they don't control shit.
Pfizer is safe and effective, by the way.
Yes.
You know what would have been safe and effective and stopped the spread? A wall.
So this is from Glenn Greenwald. Tucker Carlson spent roughly 10 to 15 minutes imploring Vladimir Putin to release the Wall Street Journal's Evan Gershkovich, vehemently arguing why it's unjust to keep him in a way that no corporate journalist would ever dare do with Biden about Assange. Damn right. Batya Unger Sargon. This was one of the most brave and significant acts of journalism of the last decade. But instead of plaudits and awards, Tucker Carlson will continue to be derided by America's craven and coddled press corps, including those with Evan Gershkovich's name in their socials.
By the way, I don't believe that he's not a spy. I'm going to be honest. Tucker's sitting there going, well, come on, he's a kid. He's 32 years old. Oh, yeah, the intelligence agency would never use a kid in his 30s.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean,
the Wall Street Journal.
They have a long history of using Peace Corps members just out of college. So.
They use Julia Childs.
Yeah, that's not an argument. So I heard from a bunch of hacks, this is from MIA. I heard from a bunch of hacks that Tucker wasn't going to bring up Evan Gershkovich. Then I heard him bring up Gershkovich at 151. It's not funny.
I think that name's Ukrainian, by the way?
Right at 151.06. Write that down, you insufferable liars. Folks, stop listening to a bunch of fake journalists when they report on real journalism like this. Here. He did not give him a softball interview. He did not give him a foot rub. He closed out with his hardest question, his toughest question, probably in case Putin stormed out, in case Putin cut off the interview. So he ended with that. He really put him on the spot. It's what we used to call journalism. Now the hacks who have infiltrated journalism call it treason. You got anything, Keaton?
I mean, yeah, it's in line with what you just said. Putin got a much, much, much tougher interview from Tucker Carlson than Zelensky got from any of the media goons who interviewed him. You talk about softball interviews.
Right.
He's the one who got the softball interviews.
Right.
So all these people who are now saying, well, Tucker softballed Putin, every chance you had to ask Zelensky a tough question, it was all just, it was comical. The fawning praise they heaped upon him. What is it like? You know, like there's a video of, I believe it was Erin Burnett doing like a walk and talk with him that's been making the rounds. Like, you want to see a softball interview? That's a softball interview.
Right. Right.
Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Bend, Oregon, Portland, Seattle, Philadelphia, Avenel, New Jersey, Boston, Palm Springs, Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Berlin, and London. We're adding a second show in London. The first show sold out. See you there.